250,000 people showed up that day from all across America. One single man organized the entire thing by himself. He planned every bus, every sign, every speaker at the podium. In just 8 weeks, no email, no phones, just Rustin and volunteers, he built the stage where King told America about his dream. Then they erased his name from the story. Almost nobody even noticed it. His name was Bayard Rustin. He organized the March on Washington. Then America tried to forget he existed. This is the story of why. West Chester, Pennsylvania, 1912. Rustin was born into a Quaker home where civil rights leaders gathered at the table. His grandmother, Julia, helped found the local chapter of the Advancement of Colored People. It was Julia who raised him as her own. Young Bayard believed his mother was his older sister. He did not learn the truth about his own family until he turned 11. Julia gave him Quaker values that would shape everything: peace, equality, the belief that every human being deserves dignity. West Chester once served as a stop on the Underground Railroad, but by the 20s, the town was segregated. Hate rallied openly. As a teenager, he was arrested for refusing to sit in the segregated section of a movie theater. That defiance shaped his whole life. He became valedictorian at Henderson High School. He was also a gifted tenor whose voice could fill a room without trying at all. In 1937, he moved to Harlem. He sang on Broadway alongside Paul Robeson. He recorded spiritual albums. Not his true calling. In Harlem, he joined a leftist youth league for its stand against prejudice. He walked away by 41 when priorities shifted. That year, he met A. Philip Randolph, the labor leader who built the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. Randolph became his mentor. Together, they pressured Roosevelt into banning discrimination in defense jobs. Just the threat of a march did it. No steps required. Rustin joined the Fellowship of Reconciliation and helped found the Congress of Racial Equality. He was building something bigger. Then the war came. Rustin was a Quaker pacifist. He refused to serve. The government gave him 28 months behind prison bars. He served at Lewisburg Penitentiary in Pennsylvania. Even behind bars, he organized inmates to protest the segregated dining hall. After his release in 1946, he went straight back to work. The movement was growing. There was no time left to pause or to rest. In 1947, he launched the Journey of Reconciliation. Black and white riders rode buses across the South to challenge Jim Crow. It was the first freedom ride in this country, 13 years before the famous ones. Rustin started it, and almost no one remembers. He was arrested in North Carolina, 22 days on a chain gang. He wrote about the experience and drew national attention to it. In 1948, he went to India and studied Gandhi for 7 weeks. He came back with a blueprint for how to fight without violence. That same year, he helped push Truman to desegregate the military. Wherever the civil rights fight needed someone, Rustin showed up. Then came 1953. Arrested in Pasadena, California on a morals charge. 50 days in a jail cell, that record followed him. The arrest became a weapon against him. He was forced out of the fellowship. His enemies had the ammunition they had always wanted. But Rustin kept going. He joined the War Resisters League. He kept organizing. Then, in 1955, a phone call changed everything. Montgomery, Alabama. Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat. A young preacher named King was leading a boycott and needed help. Rustin went south. He found a courageous leader without a strategy for sustained resistance. He gave King one straight from Gandhi. He taught King nonviolent direct action, how to take a blow without returning it, how to make a nation confront its own injustice. King wrote that Rustin's commitment to nonviolence was of inestimable value to the cause. Teacher and student had found each other. He helped King build the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He wrote strategies and ran campaigns from behind the scenes. In '60, a congressman threatened to spread lies about King and Rustin. The message was clear: either Rustin goes or King suffers. To protect King and the movement, Rustin stepped aside. For 3 years, the man who taught King about nonviolence vanished from view. Then '63 arrived. Randolph called for a march on Washington. He needed an organizer. Only one name came up: Bayard Rustin. Not everyone agreed. A top civil rights leader said they must not put a man with Rustin's liabilities at the head. His liabilities? 3 things: attracted to men, once in a leftist group, refused military service. In that era, each one alone was disqualifying. Randolph held firm. He took the director title and gave Rustin full control as deputy. In reality, Rustin ran the whole operation. 8 weeks. No internet, no cell phones, just a Harlem office, 200 volunteers, and one man who knew how to move a nation. He wrote a detailed manual: bus routes from dozens of cities, sound equipment, restrooms, first aid, water supply, security plans. He coordinated every speaker. He arranged the order of every speech. He sold over 100,000 buttons to fund the operation. He planned for every problem: late buses, medical emergencies, crowd panic. For every scenario, Rustin had a written plan prepared. He told volunteers to leave angry signs at home. The message was about dignity and jobs and freedom, not rage. The world was watching. By mid-August, churches across the nation were chartering buses. Thousands of booklets had been printed. The movement was rolling. Kennedy warned if the march turned violent, it would set the cause back years. Rustin told his team there would be no violence at all. Every detail was on paper. Rustin ran through the plan over and over. Nothing left to chance. He would not allow a single mistake. August 28th, '63. Dawn. Rustin stood alone near the Lincoln Memorial. The mall was empty. He did not yet know. By 9, the buses were arriving. From Harlem, Chicago, Detroit, Birmingham. By noon, the crowd was larger than anyone had predicted. 250,000 people filled the National Mall. It was the largest peaceful demonstration in the history of the country. King stepped to the podium and spoke the words that defined a generation. A dream of equality, a dream of justice. The world heard. The crowd stretched from the Lincoln Memorial to the Washington Monument, a sea of faces, black and white, standing in the sun. Rustin watched from the side of the stage. He had predicted 100,000. Double that number showed up. America answered. After the speech, Rustin himself walked to the microphone and read the official demands: jobs, voting rights, full desegregation. A volunteer that day called Rustin the real general. He told every person what to do, when to do it, and how it needed to be done. Only 4 arrests the entire day. All 4 were white. Kennedy had troops standing by just in case. They were never called upon. Rustin and Randolph appeared on the cover of Life magazine that week. For one brief moment, the man behind it all stepped into view. 9 months later, the Civil Rights Act became law. The Voting Rights Act followed the next year. The march had changed everything. One day, one man, 8 weeks of planning. It produced more political pressure than years of lobbying. The greatest protest in history. Rustin proved something vital. Ordinary people organized with discipline and purpose can bend the arc of justice. He showed it works. But what came next is the part they buried. After the greatest triumph of the movement, Bayard Rustin began to vanish from history. Pick up a textbook from the 70s or 80s. You will find King, Kennedy, the Big Six. You will not find the name Bayard Rustin. The man who built the march was erased. not by accident, by choice. The people who controlled the narrative left him out on purpose. First, liability. He was attracted to men. In that era, that was a crime. The arrest in '53 gave his enemies all they needed. Second, liability. He once joined a leftist youth group. He left in '41, but the label stuck for the rest of his entire career. Third, liability. Conscience. He refused the draft as a Quaker pacifist. Many Americans in that era considered that act pure betrayal. Any one of those alone could end a public career in that era. Rustin carried all three. There was no mercy for someone like him. His biographer called him the lost prophet. He shaped the greatest social movement of the century. Then history erased his name. 23 arrests in his lifetime. For riding buses, for the draft, for who he loved, every time he got back up and kept going. Even leaders he helped were afraid to stand beside him publicly. The movement owed him everything. The cost of association was huge. Textbooks named others, speeches honored others, films featured others. Rustin became a footnote that almost nobody bothered to read. The man who built the march, the man who taught King nonviolence, erased, not for failing, for being exactly who he was as a person. History is written by those who choose which parts are safe to tell. The rest disappears quietly, without ceremony, without a word. For decades, the only people who remembered Rustin were the ones who had been there that day, the volunteers, the true witnesses. The story America told about the march grew simpler over the years. One speech, one dreamer. The man who built it all was gone. Rustin said his activism came not from being black or from who he loved. It came from his Quaker upbringing and his family's values. They did not reject his work. They rejected him. For decades, the country that owed him the most simply chose to look the other way. But Rustin never stopped. After the march, he led the Randolph Institute, labor rights and economic justice, until his very last day. He took his work global. He fought apartheid in South Africa. He spoke for refugees. He gave his voice to the voiceless everywhere. He lived his final years with partner Walter Nagel. Because they could not marry, Rustin adopted Nagel, their only legal option. In '87, Rustin passed away in New York City at 75. He had just come home from a humanitarian trip. His heart gave, for years after, silence. Then slowly people began asking the right question. Where was Rustin in the story America told about itself? In 2013, Obama gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, given decades late. Nagel accepted the medal for the man he loved. It took the country 50 years to publicly honor what Rustin did for all of them. In 2020, California pardoned the '53 arrest. The state admitted the law itself was wrong, 67 years overdue. In 2023, Netflix made a film about his life. Millions heard the name Bayard Rustin for the very first time on screen. A high school in Westchester now carries his name, Bayard Rustin High School. The town that raised him finally said his name aloud. A justice center in New Jersey bears his name too. Nagel helped build it. The legacy grows, but it started much later than it should. Harvard, Yale, Brown. 15 honorary degrees eventually came. The institutions finally said out loud what the textbooks never would. Rustin said, "Every community needs a group of angelic troublemakers, people willing to stand up even when it costs them everything." He said, "Protesting the world's refusal to see your dignity is the act that grants you dignity." Rustin lived those words every day. Imagine building the greatest protest in your country's history, watching them erase your name, and still choosing to keep going. Obama said we honor Rustin by joining his march toward equality. That march is not finished yet. The work he started needs doing. His story is not just about one man. It is about what a society values and what it throws away. That should trouble every one of us. Every time we tell the story of the march without his name, we repeat the erasure. Every time we say his name, we push back against it. How many Bayard Rustins have we lost? People who changed history but vanished because they did not fit the story people preferred. If he had been someone else, would his name sit beside King and Parks in every classroom? That question still has no real answer. Who writes history? Who gets erased? Rustin forces us to sit with those questions. The answers are uncomfortable. That is the point. History is not just what happened. It is what we chose to remember. America forgot the man behind the march. That was not an accident. You cannot erase what someone built. The march still echoes. The Civil Rights Act still protects. The Voting Rights Act still stands. Westchester, Pennsylvania, raised a man who changed a nation. A Quaker table in a small town produced one of history's great minds. He proved that ordinary people organized with purpose can change a country forever. That lesson has no expiration date. Not ever. Remember his name, Bayard Rustin, born in Westchester, raised by Quakers, erased by fear, at long last restored by truth itself. Here is the question. If Rustin had not been who he was, would you know his name today? Think about it. Then tell me in the comments. What does it say about us that we erased the man who built the march, and that it took over 50 years to bring his name back? If this story meant something to you, share it with one person who has never heard his name. Refusing to forget is a form of justice. Every state has hidden stories like this. People who built something extraordinary then vanished from the record. We will find them. If you want more hidden American history, subscribe to this channel. The textbooks left a lot of names behind. We have work to do. Next time we go deeper into Pennsylvania with a story the books left out, you are not going to want to miss it. Trust me on that. Until then, remember what Rustin told us. Every community needs its angelic troublemakers. People who fight when the world looks away. Be the troublemaker. Speak the names history forgot. Share their stories with the world. Thanks for watching. See you next time.